KJ, a global channel. The Political System and Me. Series 3. Institutions, Power, Rights, and Accountability. Episode 27. My Government and Public Administration. Competence without corruption. I used to think government meant leaders. The faces on posters, the voices on television, and the speeches that promised a better tomorrow. I imagined that the nation moved when those leaders spoke. But then I noticed something strange. A leader could promise almost anything, yet nothing changed in daily life. The hospital remained without medicine. The road remained broken. The permit remained delayed. The teacher remained absent. The service remained humiliating. And corruption remained alive. Slowly, I understood that a country does not run on speeches. It runs on administration. This is where our question begins. How does a government turn law, policy, and public money into reliable service for an ordinary human being? Government is not only the loud front of power. It is also the quiet machinery that decides whether a citizen's life becomes easier or harder, whether dignity becomes normal or rare, and whether law becomes real or decorative. Public administration is where the state becomes a servant of the people or a predator upon them. It is where a nation gains competence or bleeds into dysfunction. Dysfunction is not neutral. It punishes the poor first and the future next. A democracy without competent administration becomes fragile. And competent administration without integrity becomes dangerous. The system reveal is merit-based administration and implementation. Public administration is the invisible government. Policy becomes real only through competent, impartial, documented, and answerable implementation. In plain language, the hidden mechanism is merit-based administration and implementation. Public administration is the state's ability to keep its promises. It turns legislation into procedures, budgets into services, rights into access, and public authority into daily experience. When administration works, citizens feel the state as a reliable presence. A birth is registered correctly. A license is processed without a bribe. A patient receives medicine. A teacher arrives. A pension is paid. A complaint receives an answer. The greatest success of administration is often quiet. Nothing dramatic happens because the institution simply performs its duty. But when administration fails, government promises become public frustration. A law may recognize a right, yet the office has no staff. A budget may exist, yet money disappears. A procedure may be published, yet officials invent hidden requirements. A service may be free in law, yet costly in practice. The double failure is incompetence plus corruption. Either one is dangerous. Together, they are ruinous. Incompetence means the institution lacks the knowledge, systems, staff, coordination, or discipline required to perform. Corruption means public authority is diverted toward private advantage, political loyalty, or protected networks. Incompetence delays service. Corruption sells the delay. Incompetence loses records. Corruption hides them. Incompetence wastes public money. Corruption steals it. Public administration exists to serve the public. Corruption converts it into a system that feeds on the public. A patronage system replaces merit with loyalty. Jobs go to relatives, party supporters, military connections, financial sponsors, or personal networks rather than qualified candidates. Patronage weakens institutions twice. It places unsuitable people in positions of responsibility, and it teaches capable people that competence does not matter. Merit does not mean examination scores alone. It means fair recruitment, relevant qualifications, demonstrated ability, ethical conduct, equal opportunity, transparent promotion, and protection from arbitrary political removal. Neutrality does not mean public servants have no beliefs. It means they apply lawful policy impartially and do not turn public service into a weapon for one party, leader, ethnicity, religion, region, or private network. Professional administration must also remain democratically answerable. Expertise cannot become an excuse for secrecy or unaccountable control. Elected leaders set lawful policy, while professional officials implement it competently, record decisions, explain reasons, and remain subject to review. Administrative reform after authoritarianism or institutional collapse must be sequenced carefully. If reform is chaotic, essential services can fail and public trust can collapse further. A practical reform sequence has 4 phases. First, stabilize. Keep essential services functioning, protect records, secure payroll, clarify temporary authority, and prevent institutional collapse. Second, clean. Identify corruption risks, remove unlawful controls, investigate serious misconduct, protect whistleblowers, and close channels through which public resources are stolen. Third, professionalize. Build merit recruitment, training, service standards, digital and paper records, ethical rules, performance systems, and competent management. Fourth, institutionalize. Make reforms durable through law, budgets, independent review, public reporting, career protection, and correction mechanisms that survive changes of government. Democracy does not survive on inspiration alone. It survives on institutional discipline. The analytical center of this episode is the accountability chain. Authority, duty, record, oversight, answer, correction, consequence. Authority asks who had the lawful power to decide or act. Duty asks what that office was required to do. Record asks what evidence should exist. Oversight asks who can examine conduct independently. Answer asks who must explain what happened. Correction asks what can repair the failure. Consequence asks what follows when duty is deliberately or negligently violated. Each link matters because administrative failure may begin far upstream. The visible harm may be a missing medicine, an unpaid salary, a delayed document, a broken road, a discriminatory decision, or a service that requires an unofficial payment. But the deeper failure may begin with an unclear mandate, an unjust procedure, an unfunded office, an unqualified appointment, a missing record, a captured inspector, or a disciplinary process that exists only on paper. The chain prevents us from reducing failure to one official at the service counter. It identifies the point where authority, capacity, evidence, oversight, correction, or enforcement stopped working. When citizens and professionals can locate that break, criticism becomes more accurate and reform becomes more practical. For this episode, the principal mechanism is merit-based administration and implementation. The production graphic must make every link readable on a phone screen and label country-specific or proposed arrangements honestly. Under dictatorship, government and public administration are shaped primarily by concentrated command. Information is restricted, institutions answer upward, appointments reward loyalty, records may be hidden, and challenge may carry personal risk. Administration is often designed less for public service than for control, surveillance, extraction, and regime survival. Officials may fear political superiors more than they respect legal duty. In a fragile democracy, formal rules may exist while patronage, corruption, politicization, unequal capacity, or weak enforcement makes service inconsistent. Recruitment may appear competitive while outcomes are predetermined. Service standards may exist without staff or budgets. Political leaders may replace professional officials after every election. Complaint bodies may receive cases but lack authority to correct them. In a functioning federal democracy, authority is constitutionally distributed, common rights remain enforceable, and more than one institution can question, review, or correct harmful administration. National, regional, and local governments can administer different responsibilities closer to the people. The courts, auditors, ombuds institutions, legislatures, professional bodies, media, and citizens can test administrative conduct. But federal language or elections do not prove performance. Decentralization without capacity can move dysfunction closer to citizens. Decentralization without accountability can move corruption closer as well. Comparison is a method of judgment, not a slogan or a ranking exercise. The viewer should compare who decides, how authority was obtained, whether appointments are merit-based, whether records are public, whether affected people participate, and whether complaint, review, and discipline are available in practice. The democratic design must survive weak leaders, political disagreement, and changes of government. The minimum guardrails are 1. Merit-based recruitment and promotion. Entry, promotion, transfer, and discipline should follow published criteria, fair competition, relevant competence, equal opportunity, and reviewable decisions. 2. Clear mandates and service standards. Every office should know its legal responsibility, required procedure, decision deadline, service cost, documentation requirements, and standard of treatment. 3. Transparent decisions and records. Applications, reasons, approvals, payments, procurement, appointments, performance, and complaints should create secure and reviewable records. Transparency must protect legitimate privacy, security, and vulnerable people while preventing secrecy from shielding abuse. 4. Political neutrality and conflict of interest controls. Public servants should not be required to campaign, discriminate, collect political money, or use state resources for partisan advantage. Relevant gifts, assets, family interests, outside employment, and private relationships should be disclosed and managed. 5. Complaint, review, and discipline. Citizens need accessible ways to challenge delay, discrimination, illegality, corruption, and abuse. Review bodies need independence, evidence, authority, deadlines, remedies, and the ability to enforce correction. These safeguards work as a system. Merit without service standards can produce qualified officials inside a confused institution. Standards without records cannot be verified. Records without oversight may remain buried. Neutrality without conflict controls can hide private influence. And a remedy without enforcement does not repair the harm. Global relevance. The institutional test for government and public administration applies across political labels. Ask who decides, what limits power, how officials are selected, what information is public, who receives service, who can complain, and whether correction is real. Myanmar relevance. Use ordinary lived experience only where it clarifies the mechanism. Do not treat one organization, authority, community, department, or proposed arrangement as the whole country. Separate existing law and institutions from interim structures, local practices, political commitments, and aspirational federal designs. State clearly whether an institution currently operates only in certain areas, or remains proposed. Here is the civic practice for this episode. See and ask. Identify one government process that is needlessly painful. Ask what competence, clarity, staffing, record, or service standard would change the experience. Verify. Examine one recruitment rule, service standard, administrative procedure, performance report, complaint process, or disciplinary pathway. Distinguish the published rule from what happens in practice. ACT. Redesign one difficult administrative process on paper. Define the lawful authority, responsible office, required documents, service deadline, official fee, decision record, review route, and remedy for failure. Use only lawful and proportionate methods. Do not expose victims, witnesses, confidential records, family members, or sensitive operational information. Review. Record whether you can name the responsible institution, the evidence, the safeguard or remedy, and one safe next step. The measure of success is not visibility. It is whether you can identify responsibility, evidence, a credible safeguard, and the safest practical action. Citizens regain trust not through promises, but through repeated reliability. A document arrives when promised. A rule is applied equally. A payment is recorded. A complaint is answered. A mistake is corrected. The greatest victory of public administration is quiet. No speeches, no parades. Just an ordinary day in which institutions perform their duties and citizens are treated with dignity. That ordinary day is not ordinary. It is the triumph of civilization. It means the state is no longer a predator. It is becoming a servant. When the state becomes competent, impartial, documented, and clean, democracy becomes more than hope. It becomes a system people can live inside without fear. The principle to carry forward is this. Public administration is the invisible government. Policy becomes real only through competent, impartial, documented, and answerable implementation. Ask yourself, what part of public administration have I treated as normal even though it should be visible, answerable, and correctable? Leadership is stewardship, not ownership. In the next episode, we continue with my courts and rule of law. Remedy, not theater. Continue the playlist, use the worksheet, and keep the practice safe, truthful, and disciplined. The system shapes our lives. Our participation shapes the system. Subscribe, learn, participate, shape the future. KJA, knowledge justifies authority.